All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Wednesday, November 29th, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Anyways, let's get into it today. So markets here, a little bit of a gap and crap. Markets are actually basically just flat. However, the price action is not really indicative of that. So we had a pretty good gap up, and it looked like, gap and go here, 1, 2, 3, 30 minutes. And then right at 10 a.m., outside moved down on the 10-minute. And we wiped out that entire opening range. You see the Qs doing the same thing. And really kind of the same across the board. Russell's fading. I had a really good pop. We'll talk about that in a second, but pretty good little dump here. And, what does this mean to me? Well, first of all, we did gap up. And if you caught the morning video, I talked about this. If we go lower, guess where we're going to go? 45.50, right? Where are we at? So that's still a magnet, and that just refuses to not be a magnet. But for all intents and purposes, we did fill this gap. Let's remove that. It's getting in the way. All right, so we officially filled that gap. And another thing that I think is interesting is we gapped above this 45.70 area that I marked out, yesterday as a level of interest. We gapped above it, rallied, and now we're back below it. So maybe a failed breakout here. What does this all mean? We're also looking, poised to close below this trend line or on or below it. What does this all mean? I just think the market's gassed. I mean, take a look at, you get a really good representation here with the ES, in my opinion. Looking at kind of the RSI here, this just looks tired, right? So I showed you this trend line here. It broke. Now we're just kind of going sideways here. It's trying to break out and squeeze up, but it's out of juice here. I mean, you're up 400 and how many points here? 4125 to basically 4600. So it's almost 500 points, in not even a month. Or exactly 1 month, rather. It's just a big move, right? The market's out of gas. So, and we're close to that double top there. We did fill the gap. Basically got to that 4,600 whole round number high of the day, 45.97 on the ES. And now we're pulling back in. We do have some data coming out tomorrow. We have PCE. So that's going to be a big one. There's also Chicago PMI and obviously jobless claims, as always, on Thursday. And then Friday, we've got Powell speaking. I'm of the opinion here, and I'll make this prediction now. I think yields bounce over the next couple of days here. So if we take a look, here's the dollar, right into the 618. I told you guys 102.50. There it is, 102.46, low of the day. And we got to bounce off that. It's not like a huge, robust bounce, but it's holding the 618. My kind of thing more so is that we hit this level on the 2-year. So we finally hit that. For all intents and purposes, right? It's not exact to the penny or anything, but we're piercing that 200 MA. Beautiful bearish inside bar playing out there. 1, 2, 3 candles down into support. So I think, and I like the long end a little bit better, as I've told you guys, but even on the 2-year, I think this can get a bid. Caveat would be if PCE comes in, really cold, really cold. But I think if it just comes in as expected, or obviously if it comes in hot, that's going to push yields up. And I'm just basing that based on the fact that we're into support here. Take a look at the 5. We're talking about 4.2. That's where it got to. Could it inch lower to the 200? It sure could. The 10-year, you're right into this pocket here. So we are technically below that level. But again, it's not just one level, right? There's, multiple that we're right into. So this little zone, again, could it inch a little bit lower? Yes, it certainly could. Look at the 30-year. Could that inch a little bit lower? It may have a little falling wedge there on the 30-year as well, but, right into this level here. So I think that even if that PCE comes in somewhat cold or as expected and it's lower, the downside for yields is kind of minimal here in the short run. Okay, so just want to make that clear, but we're much, much closer to support than we are to resistance. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. Why am I talking about this? Well, obviously if yields get a bid here and the markets are top heavy, that could be, conducive to more selling. So, which, I mean, it's not a secret, right? We all know how extended the market is here. SPX coming in a little bit more here now, testing 45.50. Big level to watch is, I would say, yesterday's low. If you get below that, I mean, we're probably not going to do that today unless we barf. But that would be kind of like the big near-term level that could start more selling. Because look at, you've been up here for 4 or 5 days. If you take that level out, that's going to trap buyers. I've said repeatedly on here that if they're going to, do something here, it needs to be in a gap down, right? You want to trap. If you're looking to get a pullback here and trap buyers, you do it with that little island look. You can even see on the triple Qs here. Not quite an island, but because you're not away from that green bar. But the point is, you don't want people jumping on short intraday. You want to just gap it down and trap all the people who, chased up here at the highs. So that could happen. We got PC tomorrow morning at 8:30. It's going to be before the market opens. So let's say that comes in, let's just say it comes in hot and the market doesn't expect that, we could gap down. Just something to consider there. Outside of that, if the volume remains light, this market can still float up here. But regardless, pretty good little reversal there for the spiders, and we'll see if that ends up being something more here. Now let's get over to the Dow, and then we'll talk about the Russell. So Dow actually still green on the day, up 45 cents. Getting close to that double top and then pulled back in here. Again, it's still struggling with that 355 area. We'll see where it closes out the week, but Dow up 12 basis points. Now the Russell, I've talked about this a lot over the last 4 or 5 days. This is a good pattern. I think it's a strong pattern, but I don't think it's ready to break out. That's why I keep saying, I think it needs to do more consolidation. And I saw everything gapping up this morning, and I said, wow, they're really going to gap this up right now. I wanted more consolidation because I thought, it'd be a good pattern to buy. And you can see right here, it wasn't enough, right? So gap up, 1, 2, 3, right down, and we're at the lows of the day now. So I don't think this is ready to break out yet. So that doesn't mean it can't. But again, if you get more of a pullback in the spiders, we start to retrace here, it's probably going to be under some pressure. So if it can hold up and maintain this kind of right angle and maintain this inside bar low, while let's just say the spiders SPX pulls back to 4450, maybe 4400, and the IWM holds up relatively, then it's an even stronger pattern. So something to keep in mind there. Why would that even be a precedence? We'll take a look at what is correcting today. Google down 1 1/3, Meta down 1.8, Microsoft down 1%, Apple down 70 basis points, Tesla down 1.4. You see a theme here, by the way, beautiful trend line hit on Tesla. You see a theme here, right? It's a correction in big tech, more so than anything else. So perhaps the Qs and the spiders come in a little bit, and maybe the small caps kind of hold up. Just a theory there to keep an eye on. Doesn't have to mean that happens. SMH here, still green on the day, so nice gap up there for the semis. I think Intel having a good day there as well. NVIDIA up 0.5%, although you could make a case it's putting in a minor little bearish inside bar there. Trend is still up though, so just be aware of that. But semis pulling in, stocks also pulling in as well, off of the highs, still green on the day again. I think getting maybe a little bit of a sympathy bid here. Take a look at Cloud up 1 2/3. Why is that? Well, take a look at CrowdStrike, man. CrowdStrike really powerhousing today. By the way, this may be a little day trading level here tomorrow. Maybe a Pierce of 240, 242. I like this level there. It's visible on the weekly as well, weekly and daily. But big move there for CrowdStrike into it. That might be a tail candle. That may have topped out on INTU. But still, again, green on the day. Workday also green. That's holding up. So that's helping to float the IGV higher. So Cloud getting a good reaction here. I think Pinduoduo reported as well the other day, and that's still holding up. Not that that's really an IGV stock, but in any case, Cloud Software, good move here. Let's see what the high of the day was. So 391 again. I would still give this the upside bias to like 395. I don't know if it does that in a straight line. Maybe maybe if the market starts to correct, we could gap down tomorrow, and then you've got an island / evening star setup there. But again, that's neither here nor there until tomorrow. Anyways, transports. This is a little disappointing here. So the transports were holding up all day long, and they're outperforming the market, and holding this opening range low, and then over the last hour just really faded, and now back to the flat line again. Like the Russell, like what I said, like you got like a month and a half of consolidation here before the breakdown. It's probably not going to break through that after 2 weeks of consolidation. It's just generally how it works, unless you have a powerful move. You got a lot of volume coming in. We don't have volume right now. That said, the pattern's still fine. If this bakes in the oven a little longer, you could make a case it could even set up a little inverse head and shoulder setup. So that's something to keep an eye on there, but a little disappointing on the intraday. Just a lot of these things I just think aren't ready to break out, and I think investors got a little ahead of themselves. Look at the chasing that went on this morning, but Dow Transport's pulling back in. We already talked about rates. I think they're going to bounce here. Not a lot of downside here in the near term, even if PCE comes in a little cooler. Again, XHB, same thing. Good pattern. I like the pattern, but look at how I had to come way off the highs here intraday. It's still holding up. Again, my issue is that, again, you're kind of closer to resistance than you are to support, but this pattern is still good. And, we'll continue to respect it here. But XHB up 1.16. VNQ, again, we talked about that 82 handle being kind of max move. We got to 81.93. And now we're pulling back. Looking like we're going to close basically right on that 200 moving average. We got a nice little pattern there, and that started to play out to the upside. So VNQ holding up. All right, now to the big rock star of the day. So XLF up 78 basis points. It came off the highs here. Take a look at the KRE. Been talking about this pattern as well. And it got a nice pop here, and that's held up for the most part. It is fading a little bit here in the last hour. But overall, I mean, the pattern-wise, it's fine. I don't think it's quite ready to go just yet. I still think it needs to do more back in filling, but it had a nice bid today. And again, banks were the rock star sector today. There's a KBE up 2%, just over 2% there. Again, I'm not sure it's ready to get through this area, but a little more backing and filling in that than it will be. And I think that pattern is fine. That's, again, KRE doing a lot of the driving of IWM this morning, and it did hold. Has held the gains for the most part here. Broker dealers, nice rebound today. Again, that pattern remains fine. Up move, sideways, consolidation. So I do believe that wants to go higher into the 5 to 510 area on the XPD, and then ultimately pattern-wise, it suggests a move to about 522. Nice rebound today on crude. Take a look at this here. You could make a case I'm going to use a 4-hour. You could make a case you got an inverse head and shoulder here. We had crude inventories today. Sold off initially. Actually, we sold off into the number, and then we rebounded. Take a look if we just draw this pattern out. You're going to see here, that would take you up into the 83 range. If that plays out, that changes my outlook on crude. I don't know if it does, but if you get up here, that would make me a lot more neutral on crude, possibly even short-term bullish. But we'll have to see if and when that pattern can play out. You still got to get above the 200. You got to get above this trend line. You got to get above this red bar on a close for all that can happen. You could also make a case here too, like the dominant pattern. If we just forget about this, you could say the dominant pattern is still just kind of like almost kind of bear flag type look here. So again, it could go either way. I'm not touching it. Outside of scalps, because the pattern is just too nebulous right now for me. XLE, another gap and crap, and this is really sold off towards the end of the day here. Take a look at that. Gapped up and then really just diving as we get into the 3:30 time frame. So XLE weak, not touching it here until it breaks this range. Same thing with XOP and OIH. You guys know the drill there. Nothing has changed. CCJ, a little outside move down 2.25. Again, just something that's really high on the hog. Again, it got to the 45 handle, and that's where it stalled out. So I've kind of, I've made that clear as like sort of the resistance here. If it gets through that, it's going to 50. That's really the best I can give you here on CCJ. And URNM outside move down almost 4%. So again, not quite getting the double top here. Again, trend is still up though, and it's just doing some pulling back. Nat gas, kind of a nothing burger here today. Really flat to yesterday's gap higher. Nothing really to say there. Maybe this wants to go a little bit lower. We had a gap up here. We had a tail candle, kind of a gap and crap on the contract rollover. There's still a lot of, we never filled that contract gap from September 26th. Those do tend to fill, but we'll see. This is kind of where you broke out of back in the summer or early fall rather. So we're kind of getting close to that level now, but nat gas, a little bit of a nothing burger today. We already talked about the dollar. That's into the 618. Gold continuing to have a nice day here, so up 25, about 0.25% here, close to the all-time high. It is a little overbought, just be aware of that. And again, you do have a gap to fill, like I said yesterday. But gold, I don't see any issues with it right now. The only problem would be, I guess, if yields get a bounce here, like I'm predicting, maybe that pulls gold back in and maybe go retest this gap here. But trend is up and looks good right now. Silver, a little bit of a spinning top doji there. That may need to stall out here. GDX, I haven't talked about it in a while here, but you did trigger an inverse head and shoulders here on the GDX. So that means on pattern, this can be bought. So I think the gold miners are interesting here. SILJ is into some resistance as well, but nice breakout there. Possible W bottom if you can get a V here. It turns into a WV, which is a very powerful pattern. So keep an eye on those. I'll be watching them as well. Platinum down 1% on the day. Again, that can be bought on dips. Palladium rolling over as well. We'll see what this one wants to do. I'm not so sure about this one. I'd like the long-term level, but I'm not so sure in the short run. I'd like you to have. Can you get above the 20 moving average, you know, right? Like, can you do one of these at least? I'd feel a lot better about it. But we'll see what that does in the end of month tomorrow. But palladium hanging in there for now. Copper backing off a little bit, so into the trend line there. Stalling out. Again, end of month tomorrow. We'll see what that looks like. Again, has a gap to fill as well. Lastly, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's still holding up. No real problems here. And just kind of trending higher. I will say you can kind of make a case. You could kind of make a case you have a rising wedge there. So let's just change that. So watch that. It could be tightening here. Tends to break bearish usually, this type of pattern here. But trend is up. We'll respect it here. And I'm watching that in the end of the month as well. But, you know, right now it looks okay. But watch that pattern there. Alts look good. Take a look at ETH. That's a good pattern there. One that I do like too is Solana. Nice consolidation. So nice right angle there. And there's not really, what I like here is there's not really a ton of resistance because you cleared this area already. If you can start to bust out, I mean, $80. I think that can be done, maybe even 100 if it really gets going. So some of the alts looking okay here, but just watch that pattern there on Bitcoin. If this goes down, obviously the whole sector is under pressure. All right. So spiders here. So it's about 3:37. Again, doing the video a little early. I've got a little webinar for members after this at 5. But again, 45.50, that's the area here. We'll see what PCE brings tomorrow. That's probably where we're going to close today, unless they try to unpin us. But we've been pinned to that level for essentially 6 sessions now, if you want to count this one. So at some point, we're going to break through this level. Just a matter of, are they going to break it down or break it out? And we've been trying to break out, you know, multiple times last couple of days. Markets are tired. You guys know my thoughts on that, so I don't need to reiterate it for you. But we'll see what we get going into tomorrow. And then, of course, Powell on Friday. Does he try to walk back some of this rally and sell some calls to the market? Anyways, guys, going to wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. Talk to you guys all tomorrow.